All right, great. You guys ready to get started?
Definitely.
All right, cool.
Yes.
Thank you. So, welcome to the Mental Fitness Lab. So, this is habits for burnout prevention specifically. So, we're going to talk about burnout prevention goals, and then we're talking about how to create an actionable habit from that burnout prevention goal. And then we'll talk about and kind of work through to develop or reword and reconstruct that habit so that's more likely to be consistent, like we stick with the habit for a long period of time, is the whole idea of the lab. So the through line for the presentation, the worksheet, or the workbook is that mental fitness isn't built in crises, it's built in habits. So I'll kind of explain that a little bit in the next couple of slides. So what is mental fitness? Not necessarily mental health therapy per se. We think of mental fitness as the future, specifically the future of therapy. My understanding personally of mental fitness really became clear through my experience with an organization called Entrepreneur Organization. So I come from RY Services slash Healing Human Services, and the owner of that company is part of this organization. And what this organization is it's a collection of business owners and founders. And there's thousands of them all over the world in like 70 plus countries with dozens of local chapters. And in order to be in this organization, your business has to make at least $1 million a year or plus.
Good.
So these individuals that do this, they're very accomplished, they're very successful in their personal field, very high functioning individuals. And I got to just attend a couple of their meetings. And what I saw, what really stood out to me, which was really interesting, was that they would get into a forum and come into an office kind of like this, and then close all the blinds. They put like a do not disturb thing on the door, and everything in the room was confidential. There'd be like 8 business owners. And one business owner would come with a challenge that they're having in their life. And it wasn't necessarily with their business. It might be with their marriage. It might be with like their kids. It might be with their business. Maybe their business is losing money and they're about to go out of business. But something super personal, and they would share with the other business leaders, and they would talk about the emotions surrounding it. And the other members would just sit back, listen, not judge, and not even give them any advice. What they would do is they would share something similar that gave them the same emotions. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's anxiety, and it's called an experience share. And through that, they would kind of grow together. And what I noticed, because I was the only therapist in the room, these are people that own pets stores or own car washes or whatever it is. I noticed that what they were doing was very similar to therapy. And they weren't doing it to deal with a crisis. They weren't doing it necessarily in a clinical sense, but in terms of purpose. They were doing a therapeutic exercise so that they can be more confident, so that they can grow, so that they can make better decisions and like lead their team. And that's kind of the mental fitness in action, very like kind of foundation of it. And they do that with what's called a deep dive. That's kind of like their therapeutic exercise. So I really love that, and it really like kind of clarified how mental fitness can take us from like baseline and help us be like much better. So I want you to visualize a car crash. When somebody gets in a car crash, they might see a physical therapist, and that therapist will do like different exercises. They'll do stretches, they'll like change their diet, they'll go to cold plunges and saunas and things like that, so that they can go from like crisis mode to baseline mode. Now, and that's kind of the tradition of therapy. Mental health therapy in the past has really been seen as almost a crisis response. We get really depressed, or maybe we're having suicidal thoughts, or maybe we're completely burnt out, so we go to therapy. Now visualize an athlete training for the Olympics. That person will also have a coach, go to the gym, do saunas, do cold plunges, get stretches, things like that, but they're doing it not to deal with the crisis, but to compete on the biggest stage against the biggest people in the world so that they can be the best in the world. That's kind of our idea of mental fitness, that you can do therapeutic things ahead of time so that you can kind of be a better version of yourself. Why does mental fitness matter? So the definition of mental fitness is optimizing consistent performance in life through habits that create growth, is the idea. Before we talk about how to develop mental fitness and develop these habits, it's okay. We'll talk habits all the time. We'll talk about what life looks like when you don't train your mental fitness and when you don't really work on your habits. A lot of the times your focus starts to wane. Small mistakes irritate you much more than they normally do. And the key thing is that you become really disconnected and cynical. Disconnected from your team, disconnected from your culture, disconnected from your job, things like that. And what does burnout look like? We see burnout in terms of research happening in three key areas. One is emotional exhaustion, so the feeling that you really can't take this anymore, either physically or mentally. The next one is detachment or cynicism, so you're not feeling as connected, or you can't really see like your purpose in an organization anymore. And the third one is reduced effectiveness, so just not being as effective as you used to be. So burnout, in terms of statistics, has become the new norm in America. So 60% of healthcare workers specifically report burnout. 66% of all employees across the whole country report burnout in all professions. And for young people, Gen Z and millennials, 70% of them are reporting burnout. So it's huge for them. The cost is huge too for companies. So per employee per year, they're spending anywhere from $4,000 to $20,000 for somebody that they lose to burnout. Up to $200 billion spent in healthcare costs alone. In terms of production across the whole world, up to $1 trillion. And the majority of burnout is what's called presenteeism. So somebody will get burnt out, they'll show up to work, and they don't necessarily quit, but they're just kind of going through the motions. They're not as focused, they're not as like committed to the work they're doing. That is where you see the reduction in burnout costs, or in production costs. The way that mental fitness sees burnout and habits is they see burnout as a skill gap, not necessarily a state. So you don't just wake up one day and you're burnt out. You don't just have one bad day and you're burnt out. It's that there are certain habits that are broken or not happening that are leading to burnout. So for example, emotional exhaustion, we see that as your energy habits are just broken. Detachment and cynicism, your meaning habits and your connection habits are broken. And then reduced effectiveness, your focus habits and your structure habits are broken. Okay, so burnout is a skill gap activity. So this will be kind of the first thing that we'll do is the first page, well, not the first page, but the second page is called Burnout is a Skill Gap. And we'll kind of go through this together. The beginning is the reality of helping professions. So all of you guys are in helping professions. And we see the likelihood of burnout for you guys is being very high. Just because you guys are dealing with difficult cases, there's a lot of high caseload, almost like overabundance of cases sometimes in this field, and you have your highs and lows. So the burnout is very likely in this area. A little bit lower, you see the 3 burnout indicators, so emotional exhaustion, detachment, cynicism, and reduced effectiveness. That kind of tells you what the definition of those types of burnout. So take a second and just read that, or just skim through that first part, and then we will go to the first activity where it says part 1, Caseworker Habit Match Challenge. So in part 1, the Caseworker Habit Match Challenge, really what this is looking at are common professional habits. As a group, you guys will decide which burnout indicator each habit protects against, and then you'll write the correct code. And the correct code is kind of at the top. I kind of spaced it bad, but EE, emotional exhaustion, DC, detachment and cynicism, RE, reduced effectiveness. The definition of those were on the back, what it often feels like. And for each habit that's stated there, take a second and just fill out whether you think it's EE, DC, and RE, or RE. And if you think it could be more than one, you can put that too. Okay, let's go ahead and review these real quick. So, taking 10 minutes after a difficult client interaction before jumping to the next task. What do you guys think that one is? Any ideas?
I put down EE
Yeah,
/ RE.
EE. Yep, EE, emotional exhaustion. RE2, reduced effectiveness is perfect. Just giving, and that's kind of seen as like just giving yourself that reset. Talking with a coworker or supervisor about a challenging case. Which one do you guys think that one is?
DC.
Yeah, DC. Detachment and cynicism, kind of connecting with your superiors. I think a lot of the times, at least when I was like in the field doing casework, the importance of supervisors was so big. Like we had a period where we saw a lot of just people coming to our job and just leaving. Just because our supervisor like experience, kind of like how they were there for them and their mentorship skills just weren't there. So the detachment would happen so often. Really have to kind of pour into our supervisors to make sure that people just felt comfortable being honest with their leaders. Writing the top 3 priorities for the day before starting your caseload. Which one do you think there?
RE.
Yeah, reduced effectiveness.
EC.
Yep. Thinking of, especially with reduced effectiveness, really thinking of anything that helps you with structure or prioritization or focus. So writing those priorities kind of tells you, okay, this is what I'm gonna do first, these are the most important things. Completing documentation immediately after sessions instead of stacking it up. You guys think that way?
RE.
Yep, reduced effectiveness, getting those key tasks done first. Oh, sweet. I didn't notice there was a plug here for the fan. So I turn that on. What's the next one? Let's see. Remind yourself that relapse is part of recovery and not a personal failure. There we go. That one, I'd say, probably EE, emotional exhaustion. Just kind of not taking it too personally. I think that happens a lot with helping professions. Taking a real lunch break away from your desk. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Probably emotional exhaustion. Blocking 30 minutes to focus only on documentation. Yep. Reduced effectiveness. And then sharing a small success story about a client in team meetings. And for that one, kind of sharing those success stories, I think that just creates like a sense of culture in a company. So you're thinking like detachment and cynicism, and people just being appreciated for what they do. Sometimes the work you guys do is like thankless. Leaving work without checking emails after hours when possible. That one happens a lot. You're thinking emotional exhaustion there, so not taking your work home. And then asking for support when a case becomes emotionally heavy. That one could probably EE and maybe DC.
DC too.
Yeah. Good job. Okay, so this one is a real world scenario. So your group now receives a common situation in addiction treatment. Discuss the question together. So the scenario is as simple as possible. A caseworker has 40 clients, multiple relapses in 1 week, 3 overdue documentation notes, and 2 court reports due tomorrow. They start thinking, nothing I do actually helps. So the first question is, which burnout indicator is most likely happening here? Which one do you guys think? Yeah, like just that feeling of like not having an impact anymore. Definitely really lost. And I think even in addition to that, reduced effectiveness. Which protective habits might be missing? So can you guys think of any habits that person could do that might help them in the situation? Like, do you think like keeping a daily planner, or maybe not taking work home? Anything stand out to you guys that might help them?
I think not overlapping appointments or when ending them on time, when we don't end appointments on time someone else is waiting, or that causes not only you to feel some way, but they also feel some way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's really good because I meet this all, especially in individual therapy, which is a big thing that we do. Overlapping appointments is huge. I never even thought about it until you said it. But the habit that connects with that is like a communication habit. Being able to have the habit of communicating, our time is ending now, and just being able to respectfully end that session so that you're not like either going into the next session late, which might impact your relationship with the next person. So we think of like all these things as just habits people have. Yes. All right, build a burnout protection habit. Now your group designs one realistic habit that someone in this job could start this week. The rules of this habit are that it must take 10 minutes or less, must work even during busy weeks, and must protect against burnout. A habit idea. So take a couple minutes and write down a habit that either you already do that helps reduce burnout, or a habit that you could start doing. Some of the ideas are just taking a real lunch break, not working through your lunch, not taking work home. Another one is not checking emails when you're at home, keeping a daily planner. All those things could just be habits that are small but make a difference. And then once you write your habit down, just circle which burnout indicator you think that it is. Anybody come with a habit?
He just said walk.
Walk, okay, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I like to do that after I eat my lunch. We have like a little, our place is set up really nice where we're connected to a bunch of other buildings. So walking around the whole building takes maybe like 5 minutes or so. And it's like the perfect thing to do. I tend to get tired after I eat lunch, so that like wakes me up. So it's a really good one. Okay, good. All right, so good job, guys. Good work. Let's go on to the next session. What am I doing? Picked up the wrong row. There we go. Okay, so key insight: helping professionals often think burnout means I care too much, but more often the job pressure remove the habits that protect people doing hard work. And that's kind of the idea that we see, is that once job pressure increases, a lot of our normal habits that keep us healthy mentally and emotionally start to become more optional, and we start to not do them. And then the impact of that work has a bigger impact. Okay, inside you guys' work, it's not in this workbook, but I'm going to email all of you an additional workbook that has a few more pages in it. And this is one of the resources that it has. It's called the Sanity Support Sheet. And what this has are different habits that are in those categories. So it has a collection of energy saving habits. It has like meaning habits, connection habits, structure habits, and they're listed out there. That's just to get you guys kind of brainstorming different habits that you might want to add to your life, or different habits that maybe you stopped doing that you could begin doing again. And that actually reminds me, I forgot to get the signage. I hope I brought it. It looks like I didn't. I know that I have Blake's and John's and Coralie's email and number and all that stuff, but if you guys just take a minute, oops, I just put in there, and just have a name, just so we can take inventory of who's here. We like to count like how many people come to the meetings and stuff like that, and then we can send you guys the workbook too. Okay, these are some examples. All of the habits that we talk about today will all be very small habits. We believe that people have a likelihood of starting a habit if it's very small, and then they kind of build on it. So thinking of like energy saving habits, schedule a daily reset break, connection habits, check in with one person, and then meeting habit, write one sentence daily about why your work matters. What I want to do for a couple of minutes is just do an example together of all three of these habits. The first one we'll do is just like a breathwork exercise. So just take a second, get really comfortable kind of in your chair. And then when you're ready, what I want you to do is begin breathing, but just through your nose, so not through your mouth. Just in through your nose and out through your mouth for a couple of breaths. Okay. And then just start to notice they're going into your body, specifically into your abdomen or into your stomach, and that expansion of the stomach. Now, I'm going to explain what we'll do. What we'll do is we'll get a little bit intense, but we're going to take a deep breath for 5 seconds, and then we're going to hold it, and we're just going to tense up a little bit, tense our hands, tense our arms, and our legs. And then we'll go even deeper, and hold it again, and then tense up again, and then release. And then we'll do that 2 rounds of that, okay? All right. Take a couple more, just normal breaths. Now breathe in, deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold it, and tense up. Now deep breath again. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it, tense up, and let it out. Let's take a normal breath. And we'll do one more round. Deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it. And then go a little bit deeper. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. And then let it out. Okay. And now just take a couple more, just normal breaths, get yourself back to baseline. And sometimes that little exercise can get really intense because you're tensing up your whole body, and then you're going deeper, and then you're tensing up your whole body again. And what that's doing is it's activating your nervous system. The tenser you get, the more your nervous system's activated, and then just releasing it, it sends a message to your brain that you can just you can control that fight or flight response, that kind of like automatic response that happens sometimes. So the next one we'll do is a connection habit. So what I want you guys to do is just on your paper, write down one person that you're going to connect with today, whether it's through text, in person, through email, but one person, maybe that you haven't spoken to for a while, or maybe that you speak to all the time. Just write down their name and when you're going to connect with them.
You mean in work or?
Anywhere, in personal life, at work. It could be like your son, it could be a nephew. When I did this exercise, it was just my girlfriend's nephew, who was 16 years old. And the reason we write it down is just when we write things down, we're more likely to actually do it. And then once you've written that person's name down, the last thing that you'll do is just a meaning habit. I want you to write one sentence that says what your work means to you. And it doesn't have to be your professional work. It can also be something that you do in your personal life. Like I know a lot of people that like to garden and like care for plants. So my girlfriend's really into plants, and we have like 50 plants in our place. Because that's just her work. It's just what she does all the time. I can't take her to Lowe's because she buys so many plants. I'm like, we don't have any space for these plants. But that's kind of her work. That's what she cares about. And then once you guys do all your numbers, you're just adding it up at the end out of 45. Anybody have a goal they want to share?
I just wrote the first one, exercise and walk in rotation, meaning like if I'm down here, then I can walk.
Okay.
But when I'm home, you know,
Yeah.
I have in my room, I have my own exercise.
Oh, nice, very nice. And then for that goal, I think exercise is a very common one. I think it's an excellent one. How many days in the week would you want to do that?
Oh, well, like in rotation, meaning, well, I'm not gonna walk every day, especially when it's hot.
Yeah, that's okay. You know,
I mean, I
4 out of
guess,
7 days,
it,
5 out of 7.
yeah, I mean, maybe
Mhm.
2-3 times a week.
Okay, good, excellent. Okay, anybody else? Anybody come up with anything else?
I did the walking again.
Okay,
And I'm
good.
gonna change my habit to 5 out of 7 days to 4 out of 7 days.
Okay, okay.
Because we're half day Friday.
Good. Anybody else? You guys all good? All right. So now, your goals, you know, surrounding workout, or another goal could even be like connection. Like connection is a huge thing, and it really impacts like your emotional exhaustion. So a goal could be, I'm gonna have a conversation with one person each day, or 5 out of 7 days, or 2 out of 7 days, or whatever it is. Like one new person, or with a friend, something like that. But those connection habits are really important as well. Another goal might be to set better boundaries. You know, when people, because a common thing that happens in this career field is that we are helpers. We want to help people, and people are always asking us for stuff, and we're always saying yes over and over again. That's like our habit to say yes, and creating a goal to say yes or take a pause before saying yes, just to think and check your schedule and actually check your capacity is a really good burnout prevention goal to have. It's an excellent burnout prevention. And people in this profession have a hard time doing that. This actionable habit right here is linked to the goal of reducing overwhelm. And it says, spend 3 minutes each morning listing and ranking my top 3 priorities in my daily planner. So the original goal, I'll go back to the goal. The goal is to report feeling clear on priorities before starting work on at least 4 mornings each week for the next 12 weeks. In order to report clear on priorities, they need to spend a few minutes each day checking their planner and writing down their planner. So that's where the goal connects to the actual habit. So the thing that they're going to do every day is spending 3 minutes each morning listing and ranking their priorities. So that's kind of how those link up. So I know you guys have written your goal. I believe underneath that is the habit. So 2 where it says my energy protecting habit. Write down whatever habit will help you accomplish that goal. And maybe sometimes what happens a lot is that we write our goal, but the goal is actually the habit. So say your goal was walking more often, right? what would walking more often accomplish, or actually more often accomplish? So maybe the goal is to lose a certain amount of weight or be like in shape a certain way or something like that, if that makes sense. That would be the goal, and the habit might be what you guys put down, which is walking or exercising, whatever that is. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys have your goal, you guys have your habit. The next thing we want to do is to make sure the habit sticks. And by making sure that it sticks, we mean we want to make sure that you guys do it consistently over a period of time. And this is, we break down the construction of our habit according to James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Making it obvious is the first thing in that. So thinking of your guys' habit, whatever it is, whether it's exercising or connecting or whatever it is, you want to think of a way to make it obvious. By that, think of like a way that you can trigger your mind to know that you have to do that thing. The two questions you want to ask are, what time of day will I do it? And then how will I trigger myself to be able to do it? Those are the two main questions you want to ask. A big one is thinking of like when you have the most energy or when you have the most opportunity. So maybe it's lunch, maybe it's early in the morning, maybe it's after work, whenever that is. And then also, is there a way to, I guess, trigger it in another way? Like sometimes people will, a big habit that I have is working on my planner in the morning. And the way that I trigger that is by just putting my planner on my desk the night before. That's like the way that's my cue. So when I wake up, boom, I see my planner, okay, I'm gonna go work on it real quick. That type of thing. So yeah, just think of a way that you can trigger yourself to do it. It could be a time of day, it could be putting your walking shoes by the door, but something. A big one is, okay, the cue will be it's lunchtime. Whenever lunchtime happens, my alarm goes off, it's lunch, okay, now I gotta go walk. Alright, so now that do you guys state any cues, like any cues come to mind? Did you guys put down? Let's see.
I
The
just
one,
put when I take a break.
okay.
Just get up there,
Is there a time when you usually take a break? Like are there any breaks that are can be
But
consecutive?
there's not, just like,
Yeah.
let's say if I ended with a peer support, then I can say, okay, I got time, I'm gonna take a break. And kind of just getting it out of the way too.
Oh,
you
nice,
know.
nice. Yeah. It sounds like your schedule's kind of unpredictable. Is there times is it sometimes when you go right to a session, right to the next session, and then sometimes you have go into it and then there's like some space? So maybe the cue would be a session ends early, because I think that could be a cue. And like, oh, there's some space, or like a session canceled or something. Like that could
It'd
be.
be more cancel,
Yeah.
no call, no shows.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay. So like maybe like somebody no call, no show, which
Yeah.
that happens to me all the time too. Like people just don't show up. That could be a cue. That could be a good cue. Like
Yeah.
okay, no call, no show. All right, time to take a walk.
Got some time.
You know, that's it. But you definitely want to associate the habit with some sort of cue that tells you, okay, this is my opportunity to do it. If that makes sense. Okay. Next one is you want to make the habit attractive. So when you're thinking of making a habit attractive, think of the habit and think, what would this habit look like if it was fun? If it was fun to do. So maybe you add music to it. Maybe you end it with a snack. Maybe you do it with a friend. But think of like, what are some things I can do to make this habit more attractive, more fun? The number one way to make it more attractive, that kind of results in the most consistency, is doing it with a friend. This is the main one.
That's what we do down our hallway.
Oh, yeah?
We try to wait for each other to go for a walk.
Oh, okay, nice. Where do you guys walk at around here?
Just the park
Just
right
park right
here.
there? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, doing it with a friend's a big one. Music's another big one. Podcasts.
Podcast.
Yeah, those are all big ones. So, what does it look like with it being fun? Okay. And then the last one is to make it easy. How can you make it easier? Let me think. There's a lot of ways to make it easy. The book uses a lot of workout examples. Like one way that they made it easy was that the habit was running every day. And what they did was they put their running shoes by their door the night before. So it just made it really easy for them to go and slip on their running shoes and then go for a run. But just thinking to yourself, like, how can I make this habit a little more easy? And then also, the reason why it's so important to put a number with the habit, like I'm gonna do this 3 times a day or 2 times a day or once a week or twice a week, is because an easy way to make it easier is to reduce the number. So say you get really overwhelmed, you get really busy, and you're starting to think, I don't know if I have this time for this habit today. Just reduce that number to like 1 time a week or whatever it is. But a big one is just, that's why I have kind of a reduction here, just making it a little bit less so that you do a small version of it. It keeps your mind thinking, I do this every day or I do this every week, and then you can just pick up the next week or the next day, if that makes sense. A common thing that people teach in productivity science is what's called the Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect says that when we start something, our mind wants to complete that task. So the way you can use this in terms of making it easier, making it more likely to do your habit, say your habit is to read 12 books in a year, right? Or the goal is to read 12 books in a year. The habit would be to read a chapter every day, but one day you feel a little overwhelmed, you're really busy. The Zeigarnik effect would say, reduce that to just reading a paragraph that day. And most likely what will happen is you'll start to read that paragraph and you'll just continue reading. The whole idea of the Zeigarnik effect is tipping that first domino, and bigger dominoes will fall one after the other. So you just start the task and you'll do more and more and more because your brain just kind of wants to complete that task. So take a couple seconds, think of how you make your task a little bit easier. Okay, so we've gone through kind of that structure. The original habit was to spend 3 minutes, in the example, to spend 3 minutes each morning listing and ranking my top 3 priorities in my daily planner. The way I made it obvious was I put my planner on my desk the night before so that I know. I made it attractive by pairing it with coffee. I drink coffee every morning. And then I made it easy by using a template. I use it's called an oath journal, and it kind of just like lists out everything that I need in terms of setting my priorities and doing my to-do list. So that's kind of how I made it easy for myself to set my own priorities. But whenever you're trying to construct a new habit, you want to kind of go through this structure. How can you make it obvious? How can you make it attractive or make it fun? And then how can you make it easy for yourself? Okay. In the online workbook that I'll send you guys, it just has a list of habits and obstacles. So there's often obstacles that happen that prevent us from doing our habits some days. So usually it's just we get really busy or we're sick or something like that happens. This lists common obstacles and responses that we can do for each one. So for example, feeling too busy, when time pressure rises, new habits feel optional. The response would be to shrink the habit to a 1 or 2 minute version, a smaller habit. Okay, so we've talked about the foundation of mental fitness, which is just building habits and kind of being consistent with those habits. The next thing we want to talk about is what happens when you're able to build good habits. Like what happens when you finally figure it out and you can either break a bad habit or build a really good habit. And this is where I think mental fitness is interesting, because what it says is that when you're able to build strong habits in your life, the next thing that happens is that you build confidence, a lot of confidence. And life looks very different when you have confidence. A common thing that happens in therapy, a common thing that people come to us for is just anxiety in general. The number one reason people go to therapy in America is anxiety. And a lot of times, people will start with, oh, I have anxiety. And they'll say, okay, well, what's the nature of anxiety? What does it look like? And they'll say, well, I think it's social anxiety. I get really nervous and anxious around other people when I'm in large crowds. And then we'll talk a little bit about that. And what that kind of results to when we start talking about it is they have low confidence. And a big part of mental fitness is developing confidence, developing that sense of self-worth. before we talk about the 3 ways that mental fitness does that, we'll talk about the word confidence. The root of confidence is to confide. And when you confide in somebody, you really only confide in somebody that you trust. And a big thing about confidence, and kind of the question that we're asking whenever we're talking about like anxiety and how it relates to confidence is, why don't you trust yourself? Like, what are the reasons why you don't trust yourself? It's a question that we'll just spend time asking. And a big reason that we say it is because the person doesn't keep promises to themselves. Little bitty promises that happen over their lifetime, that they just kind of set these goals or tried to do these things and they just didn't do them, or said they were going to do something and didn't do it, and that confidence, that like sense of trust in themselves just kind of wanes over time. And that's kind of the idea of the habit building, is that we see these habits that we set for ourselves as little tiny promises, and over time, you're keeping those little promises to yourself, and that creates this sense of confidence. You start to trust yourself because you're keeping your word to yourself. So that's number 1, is that you build these habits and you start to keep these promises to yourself, and that confidence grows. Number 2, the second way that mental fitness builds confidence is that it teaches you to do things outside your comfort zone, to do hard things. A big thing that keeps people from wanting to do hard things, well, I guess before I go into that, this is kind of a person with their comfort zone, and their discomfort zone is really big. So you have this very small comfort zone. Outside this comfort zone are certain things. Maybe it's public speaking, maybe it's talking to somebody that you don't know. And then outside of the discomfort zone is the panic zone. You want to stay away from the panic zone. What mental fitness tries to teach you to do is do more things outside your discomfort zone, because as you do those things, your discomfort zone will become your new comfort zone. And that will continue to grow and continue to grow. And the big thing that people say whenever we talk about this is that I don't have the skill set to do things outside my discomfort zone. And that's why I have that fear around it. And that's the second way, or the third way that confidence really helps, that mental fitness helps build confidence. It's through building habits that build skills. So constructing your habits around competency. So 1, keep promises to yourself. That's the first way that mental fitness helps build confidence. 2 is to do things outside your comfort zone. And then 3 is to build competency. And when it comes to competency, just think of yourself whenever you're talking about something that you know a lot about. That's when like we feel that sense of confidence. And we can construct habits to develop competency in several different areas. So those are the 3 ways. We kind of talk about that: keeping promises, doing hard things or things outside your comfort zone, and then building competency. And then that is how we ultimately create that growth. And then that's the mental fitness isn't built in crises, it's built in habits. So the idea is doing a lot of these exercises on a regular basis, not because of a crisis, but because we want to grow, ultimately. Does anybody know who this is? Michael Jordan. So I love having Michael Jordan kind of in the presentation because I think he does a really excellent job, his whole story, of demonstrating mental fitness at its finest, especially when it comes to growth. Reason being is because Michael Jordan's kind of the premier, like, central sports figure in my life as a childhood. I used to like watch his videos like over and over and over again as a kid. I was really into basketball. But there's a couple of things that I learned from Michael Jordan. 1, he became very, very popular and really separated himself from other athletes because he was famous for taking the final shot in the game to like win the game. It was like a thing that he was just known for. He was like, put it on my shoulders. And to do that, it required an enormous amount of confidence in yourself. And the second thing that he was known for was like this kind of almost crazy, zealous way of practicing. He was always practicing. That was like the habit that he had. He had this habit of just showing up, practicing every single day as if it was the championship. I think there was a huge documentary about like how crazy he was in practice. He was like getting fights with his teammates. He was just like this religious, crazy practicer. And the way I see that and why it connects to mental fitness is because he was keeping these promises to himself every single day, every drill he did, every shot he did, and that resulted in him kind of winning all these championships. And the last line is that greatness isn't built in talent, it's built in habits. This is the QR code. Kind of what I'd like you guys to do is just take a second. I don't have my phone, but just kind of scan that, and that will take you to a little survey. And I would love for you guys to kind of just give me a little bit of feedback on the workshop, what kind of burnout means to you, what you guys found useful, because we really like to go around to social workers all over Arizona and just talk to them about these things and take them through these little workshops, just so they can kind of revisit some things that they want to do and just get better in general. Let me know if it doesn't work for anybody.